When I first saw my sister-in-law, Catherine, she seemed really nice and had attractive features. But as I wanted to be friends with her, that feeling changed when I noticed an older lady. I wondered if she was my brother's wife's mom. Things got awkward when my sister-in-law not only cut off my greeting, but also called me an old lady. After that, my days turned into a bit of a nightmare. I'm Catherine Johnson, a regular 30-year-old homemaker. Just 4 years ago, I had a job and was really into it. I don't mean to boast, but I was well liked at work, achieving a lot and earning respect from colleagues and clients. Bob, who is now my husband, was one of them. We used to meet often because of our work connections. Our friendship began at a party with Bob's company. He started talking to me because he had heard good things about me. Bob wanted to check if the rumors were true, so he joined a meeting with me. At first, he was unsure, but as we worked together, he liked my strong personality and lifestyle. Eventually, he realized I was the one for him. When I found out he was trying to make me like him, I thought it was cute, like something a high schooler would do. But to be honest, I had a crush on Bob from the start. He had great looks and was popular with women. Even though we were business partners, I kept my feelings at a distance. However, after Bob asked me out several times, we dated for a year and then got married. Our married life was really good, and every day was happy. In the mornings, while I made breakfast, Bob would wake up with a nice expression, say good morning, and give me a warm hug. It became our routine. Even though he's older, his childlike behavior always made me feel motherly. Plus, Bob and I never argued. He never gets angry. Once, when I accidentally broke a plate he liked, he cared more about me than the plate. I always think about how kind he is. We both wanted a child, so after we got married, I decided to quit my job to focus on starting a family. I believed any child of ours would be cute. I'd often thought about names, especially if we had a girl. Time passed, and this year is our 3rd anniversary. We haven't had a child yet, but we're still happy. There's just one thing bothering us. Bob's family home has his mom and younger sister. His dad passed away from cancer before we got married. His mom is always cheerful and has been really kind to me. I think Bob's kindness comes from his mom, but his sister is different. I didn't like her. It all started when I first met her. Before we got married, I thought she was charming, like Bob. I wanted to be friends, but that feeling disappeared quickly. I said, "Nice to meet you. I'm Catherine." She interrupted and asked if I was my brother's wife's mom. She not only cut off my greeting, but also made things awkward by calling me an old lady. When Bob tried to introduce me, she fainted in surprise and asked my age. I said 27. She didn't believe it and thought it was funny, thinking I was 50. "You look really old." That was rude. I started to doubt if this girl was really Bob's sister. She stared at me from top to bottom, judging me. I just stayed quiet until she frowned. I wasn't sure if she didn't like my face or my attitude. But she kept making mean comments about how I looked. "Your clothes are outdated. You're overweight. Your nails are messy," and more. Eventually, I just looked down at my own feet. Bob was getting angry, something he rarely did, while his sister kept laughing. Then Bob spoke up. "Hey, what are you saying? That's really rude." She just replied, "Oh, whatever. You're so annoying." It ruined the mood. She's just plain mean, making the same kind of rude comments to Bob and their mom. They had put up with her behavior for years without expecting her to change. Both Bob and his mom apologized to me later, even though they weren't at fault. I felt sorry for them, but I was also mad at the sister-in-law for making such mean remarks to her own family. To avoid problems, I decided not to go to Bob's family home anymore. I heard about the sister-in-law from their mom, but she didn't cause any issues for us. So, I kept living my life peacefully. Then, something happened that messed up my happy routine. "Catherine, Bob, I need a favor. I plan to move to a senior housing place in 6 months with help. Can I stay with you until then?" Bob's mom hurt her back, not surprising. It's pretty clear the sister-in-law is responsible. Their mom already had a weak back and struggled with carrying groceries. Yet the sister-in-law who lived with her didn't help and made their mom carry her shopping bags. That's how selfish she is. It's not surprising that their mom's health got worse. I don't get why the mom doesn't just kick her out. Maybe it's because she's her daughter? No matter how bad a child is, a mother's love has no limits. I'm okay with living with Bob's mom, but that means the sister-in-law comes along too. It was the last thing I wanted, but I was worried about the mom's health, so I had to agree to the sister-in-law moving in. As I expected, living together was terrible from morning to night. The sister-in-law only said mean things, especially to me. When I cooked, she'd say, "This tastes awful. How can you make such bad food? You're strangely talented," and then throw the food away. Even when I folded her clothes, she'd find something to complain about. Sometimes she'd say, "You need to iron this properly." Her attitude was like a rebellious teenager. The sister-in-law never mentioned anything about how I folded or ironed before. She twists words to fit her story. When cleaning the room, I have to be really thorough, especially in the corners. Otherwise, my sister-in-law starts making sharp comments. "Hey, there's still dust over there. You're pretty much the maid here, so do it right. You're so useless." Even though she doesn't help, she's quick to point out flaws. I wonder silently when I'll get out of this tough situation. While I kept cleaning, she said, "Poor Bob, you can't even handle chores. At least have a child. Why were you even born a woman?" I couldn't let that slide. I usually stayed quiet, but this was too much. I didn't say anything, or maybe I couldn't. The look on my sister-in-law's face was scary, like she was disgusted. The pressure was so strong that I had to look down. It was scary and made me mad. All these feelings were inside me, and all I could do was hold back tears. Then my sister-in-law left, laughing. One day, she came home really happy. When my mother-in-law asked why, she proudly shared that her boyfriend had proposed. She bragged about him being tall, handsome, and making a lot of money. She came to me, talking about my inability to have children. While I'm on top of the world, losers like you should have kids. She laughed at me with that familiar mocking tone. It was shocking, especially in front of Bob and my mother-in-law. Bob got mad, but she didn't listen. I felt sick and rushed to the bathroom, tears in my eyes. From behind, she said, "Pathetic." But I didn't care. In the living room, I heard Bob and my sister-in-law arguing. My mother-in-law was next to me, patting my back and saying, "Children are a blessing. It's up to you and Bob to decide." She comforted me with tears in her eyes. I really wished my sister-in-law would get married and leave soon. One day, after visiting the doctor, I took a different route home and stopped by a popular flower shop. I was considering buying some flowers when an old colleague, Steve, noticed me. Even though I left my old job, Steve still sees me as a mentor. We occasionally text about work, but it's been 3 years since we last met. We chatted for a bit, and he shared that he's getting married soon. They had a date planned later that day. I was curious about why he was at the flower shop, but it became clear when he talked happily about his girlfriend. It made me smile too. When it was time to go, Steve picked out flowers and went to pay. While waiting, I looked at the flowers, trying to decide which ones to buy. When Steve returned, he had 2 bouquets and gave one to me as a gift. "This is for you. It's baby's breath, and it means gratitude and happiness. I've always been thankful for you, Catherine. Please continue to be there for me." With that, Steve headed to the train station. Gratitude and happiness, huh? I never chose flowers based on their meaning before, and I thought Steve was a warm-hearted person. I rushed home to tell my husband about this special event. When I got home, my sister-in-law wasn't there. She had gone out. I put the baby's breath in a vase and made dinner with my mother-in-law. It felt nice to have some time with just the 3 of us after a long time. With my sister-in-law away, my mother-in-law enjoyed her favorite TV show that starts at 7 p.m. that night. I told my husband about the day, and we both went to bed happy. The next morning, my sister-in-law came home with a bouquet of roses and threw them at me. She said, "Put these in a vase," and then went to her room. When I tried to put the bouquet in a vase, most of the flowers were broken or torn, so I had to throw them away. I wondered how roughly she had handled them. I started feeling sorry for her boyfriend. After taking a closer look, I recognized the bouquet wrapping. When my sister-in-law changed into her home clothes, she started talking again. I'm bringing my boyfriend over this Saturday. Make sure you dress decently, okay? Honestly, I wouldn't even want him to see you in your usual tacky outfits. Her words annoyed me, but the thought that my time with her would be short brought some relief. On the planned day, Bob and I were out shopping as my sister-in-law had asked. My mother-in-law texted to say that my sister-in-law's fiancé had arrived while we were away. She probably didn't want me to meet him. When we returned, the living room was busy. When I went to greet them, my sister-in-law gave me a nasty look. I'd accidentally made eye contact with the fiancé. After a brief look, my sister-in-law, seeming to dislike it, said, "Don't just stand there. The tea's gotten cold. Go get a fresh one." Her fiancé tried to help, but she stopped him. My mother-in-law liked the pretty roses and baby's breath in the vase. My sister-in-law made a mean comment, saying, "Why are your flowers and the ones I got from my boyfriend in the same vase? It's terrible. Separate them or throw them out. Your flowers are dull and not cute at all." She took the baby's breath from the vase and dropped it on the floor. While I served the fresh tea and put the baby's breath in another vase, my sister-in-law kept making mean comments. Seemingly bothered by my silence, she purposefully spilled the tea I had just poured, making a mess on the floor. The floor, which my mother-in-law and I had cleaned that morning, was now stained brown. I could see my sister-in-law looking nervous and agitated from where I stood. Bob brought a cloth to help me clean the floor. "Bob, you don't have to do this for her. Come on, let's sit and chat." The atmosphere was tense. Did my sister-in-law not realize that her words were causing problems? Her fiancé, who was watching everything, tried to defend me with his words. But of course, my sister-in-law wasn't happy about it. "Why are you defending her?" "You should only be looking at me," she said. "Things were getting worse. Isn't she your sister?" Her fiancé asked for clarification. In response, my sister-in-law said her usual mean phrase. "Nah, she's just the maid here, so it's okay." My mother-in-law tried to stop my sister-in-law, but as expected, it didn't work. She kept going with her usual mean comments. After she finished, her fiancé looked at her and said something surprising. "Let's break up." What? Steve was really upset. No wonder, considering he was Steve. I had a feeling that my sister-in-law was engaged to Steve. The bouquet of roses she brought home was the same one Steve had bought just the other day. Catherine is a coworker, someone I really respect, and who's kinder than anyone else. "Remember the baby's breath flower you said wasn't cute? I sent it to Catherine. Sorry for my bad taste." "Hold on. I didn't know you both worked together." My sister-in-law, who was happy a moment ago, started to panic. "Just because you didn't know, you think you can make fun of him. I'd always heard about you being mean, but Catherine isn't like that." Steve looked stern. My mother-in-law looked down, and my husband stood next to me, glaring at my sister-in-law. Everyone in the room was disappointed in her. Seeing this, my sister-in-law looked at me, hoping for support. "Is this a joke? Please tell me it is." She pulled my collar so hard it stretched my shirt. I firmly shook off her hand. "I've put up with your mean comments for so long. After everything you've done, don't come to me for help now." For the first time, I showed my true feelings towards my sister-in-law. "You've got to be kidding me. You can't do anything right. You can't even have kids. You're finished as a woman." As my sister-in-law tried to slap me, Bob stepped in and grabbed her hand. Bob, who had been silent until now, took a cup of tea and poured it over my sister-in-law's head in anger. Then he shouted at her in a low, booming voice. Bob started telling the truth about our struggles to have a baby. It wasn't me who couldn't have children, it was Bob himself. Bob had a problem that made it hard to have a baby. But with the right treatment, it got better, and now I was pregnant. Angry at my sister-in-law's mean comment, Bob told her to say sorry right away. Seeing her brother really mad for the first time, my sister-in-law was so surprised that she fell on her butt. "What's happening, Mom? You're on my side, right?" My sister-in-law held onto my mother-in-law's hand, trying to cling to her leg in a funny way, but she got pushed away. "I'm done with you. I've let a lot slide because you're my daughter, but I've had enough. Leave this house now. You're the worst daughter, you ungrateful brat." My sister-in-law thought her mom was her last friend, that even she left her. Clearly, she was shocked by this too. She ran to her room crying. Steve said he would talk to us later and left. My mother-in-law hugged me and said, "You went through a lot. You did well," while patting my head. My mother-in-law, hearing for the first time that I was pregnant, cried with a smile, saying, "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Congratulations." Bob said sorry for not protecting me properly. It was a crazy few minutes, but I felt better after finally telling my sister-in-law how I felt. I'll never forget what happened today. Later, my mother-in-law moved to a senior living place, and we sold the family home. Bob and I decided to move closer to her because we wanted her to see our child grow up. I haven't heard anything about my sister-in-law since then. After that, Bob made his sister leave the house, taking all her things with her. Nobody has been in touch with her, so we don't know where she is or what she's doing. Steve sent me a text saying he sent a letter and some flowers. A bouquet of baby's breath just arrived. I put it in a vase and started reading the letter. "Catherine, I'm sorry for my late response. How are you? Congratulations on your pregnancy. It was such unexpected happy news that it even made me happy." The letter talked about his relationship with my sister-in-law. After the incident, it seems Steve and my sister-in-law met once. It came out later that my sister-in-law was seeing someone else too. Steve found out when the other man contacted him. They cut ties and aren't in touch anymore. If they had gotten married, he would have regretted it. The letter was full of gratitude. I should be thanking Steve, but he's really a sincere guy. I truly hope he finds happiness. The end of my sister-in-law, who bullied me a lot, was unexpected. Through all this, I learned that how you treat others comes back to you, whether it's good or bad. I hope my child grows up with kindness and understanding.